able to hear us? Okay, so it
Yes,
seemed like my device was plugged out, and all that we were saying, you
oh my
weren't hearing
goodness.
anything. All right, and that's so I'm thankful for the person that just put in the chat that you weren't hearing us.
But
So
that's
all that we
funny.
just said, you didn't hear. So that's what happens when you're going live. Thank you, Jenny, for letting know you weren't hearing us. So it
So
means
we have to do it
we are
over.
going to have to do over a wonderful intro. And so Charlene, you're gonna start. Thank you so much. So we're gonna really go. So you probably missed everything we said.
Okay, rewind.
So we're just gonna rewind. We're gonna start
Rewind.
over. So
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Couples Talk. Yes, Charlotte is here with her lovely husband. Thank you, Jenny. With her lovely husband, Joshua, and we're here with a great topic for you this evening. And we're going to talk about we're going to talk about sex.
of course, how could you
Sex,
forget that topic?
like like when we came up with this topic, we were thinking. Actually, that wasn't the actual topic, but we tweak it because we figure you might like topic, if it sounds that way, it might draw you more. Not doesn't mean that it's not going to be a exciting topic. It just means that we need to capture your attention. And we're going to talk about something interesting today because sex in marriage is important. And there's so many misconceptions in terms of what sex is about that we fail to realize how important sexual intimacy is within marriage. So we're going to highlight the definition again. This was really funny.
All right. So as we started out, we would have indicated that, and when we talk about sex, we're also talking about intimacy, and that's what you should aspire to. It's not just about intercourse; it's about how both of us is able to really come together. This is a gift that we've been given. So the definition says intimacy is a romantic relationship. Is usually something that is built over time. Building long-term intimacy is a gradual process that requires patience and communication. And we think this is a great place to start. So one of the questions that we would have asked just prior to the fact that we realized you weren't hearing us was, what would you say, Charlene, and would you say is one of your greatest misconception you had about sex as you entered into marriage?
For me, the misconception I had about sex was that sex was an obligation and not something to enjoy within marriage. Meaning, I grew up in church and there wasn't much conversations about anything related to sex in church. I think it's only now we do more discussions about it. All you would hear is you need to get married. And when you get married, have sex. But why is it important to have sex? No one really talked about that because I guess if you get to talk about it, you just want to have plenty of sex outside of marriage. But no one thought about the fact that sex in marriage is also important. You need to understand this union and bonding experience with each other. So the misconception is the obligation of sex rather than sex as an enjoyment or fulfillment of two persons coming together. And it made it difficult because you always think you just need to have sex to be, you need to make sure you have sex rather than, this is a whole wonderful learning experience, bonding with your partner. And I must admit, it took a little while to figure it out. Not too long, but but it made me realize that they didn't really do much of a good job educating us. And I think that might align to one of the facts of why it is we're also doing these blogs because we think that sometimes we need to share our experiences with persons to let them know that you are not alone in the journey and that sometimes feedback from other persons who have passed it can assist those who are in their marriage and would want some other feedback or guidance or assistance or those who are not married. I might also want some advice in terms of what it's like for persons who are married. You want to get an understanding of the other side, which is a thing we don't share too often because everything we want to keep a secret and not realizing that sometimes a blessing to share with others. So that's one of the reasons why. So that's my experience, my misconception.
For me, I would say one of my greatest misconception is that you had to have sex for a long period of time for it to be enjoyable. Meaning you may have gone past your point of satisfaction, or you've plateaued and you've tried to slow down, you try to calm yourself so you could go forward. You might be bruised, you might be a bit worn, you might be tired, but yet still you're telling yourself you have to go longer because that's what it says. You can't afford to be in the category of a 1 minute man, so you just gotta go and go and go and no one is really saying, have I actually satisfied? Do I actually want to go for 2-3 hours and I'm tired, you woo into the morning and you want to be able to just say that I've actually hit this number, and you're not talking to each other to even say that I necessarily want to go that long. So to me, that's one of the misconceptions I had, and over time, and that will tie into some of the things we want to discuss tonight. So there's a few topics, and this is a wide ranging topic. There's so much you could talk about as it relates to sex, especially sex in marriage and these kind of things. But so these are the things that really stood out for us, the challenges we had within marriages as it relates to sex. And we said, let's share a few of them in the half an hour time that we normally try to set for these blogs. Even though we spent 10 minutes talking, you didn't hear a word that we said. So we will still see how much we could get through some of the topics. So we look at the first one that we wanted to share.
Guarding your marriage from unhealthy fantasies. So, since you picked that one, you should start off with.
Oh, I mean, for sure. I mean, when you talk about sex, this is men. This is our topic. We born and grow since we wake up. We're thinking about sex. I think men, they say men think about sex like every 2 minutes. You don't have to give us, you don't have to really think hard. We could look at a vegetable and start seeing shapes in it and so on. So for many of us, we've also, depending on your history, we're probably different. For me, I grew up in the house where I got introduced to sex through pornography. Through my mother didn't know how to talk to me about sex. So here we're watching real sex. So hey, this is how you're gonna learn about sex. So come and watch and get this. So you started growing up and introduced to sex in things that are not exactly ideal, or whatever the case may be, that you had to make someone scream. If you're not screaming, they're not enjoying it. You gotta tie them up. You gotta do anal. You gotta maybe you should do a threesome. You know, that's a man's looking forward. You gotta get a threesome done. It's never a threesome with 2 guys most of the case. So whatever it is, always 2 girls, you know, I mean, until the wife decides, well, we can have a threesome, let's introduce another guy, and then the message change. So you come into marriage, you have all these fantasies, you've told yourself that this is what sex is all about. This is what I saw on the pornography. That's what I saw in the magazines. That's what my friends on the block is talking about. I need to have a threesome to really make me feel like a man, and not thinking about the implications. I come into that. Here is Charlie now that is saying, I don't want to have anal. I don't want to have a threesome. Why do we want to have that? I don't want to get tied up, you know.
Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what I learned in church. I'm going to go to hell.
So, but that's what I have figured was supposed to be the hype. I didn't even know for sure, but I just came in with a perception that this is what's going to really be great. And I'm now almost implying to you that for you to satisfy me, you got to do these things. Even though in myself, I didn't even know if that's what I want, but I came in with a perception that's what I want. So that's what we're talking about when you have unhealthy fantasies, things that you haven't even validated. This is going to make you happy, but you're telling yourself, when you're imposing this now on your partner, that I want you to do this, you know, and it's not really fair to the other person that you're looking for them to just impose your fantasies on them. Now, there are times that you may have some desires for some things that you need to talk about. You know, you may necessarily. I know that's there. So that's another topic, right? You know, it's talking about sex, you get excited. Sorry.
Let's go in stages, man. In terms of number one, I really can't give too much because, as I mentioned, unfortunately, so I grew up in church. I didn't really have time to think about unhealthy fantasies outside of bills and booze and harlequins. For those don't count my age. So you know, so so my brain didn't go that wide span in terms of that. But you know, I have an exciting husband.
So the reality is, now what do you define, what I define as unhealthy fantasy and what you might define as unhealthy fantasy may not be the same thing. So I don't want to try to put it in a bracket, right? There was a blog that we're thinking of doing later on, and if you have an interest in us doing that, you could probably put a note in it, because one of the questions we were asked when we were preparing some of this, is it okay for a couple, a husband and wife, to watch pornography together? I mean, your husband is already into pornography, but what if you watch it together? So at least he's not watching on his own. You learn some new tricks, some new positions, and so forth. Do you think that's healthy? That's a conversation we want to have. So if you think that's something you want us to discuss, you could put it in the comment. But
Or you can private messages if you
yeah,
don't want
your
people to see.
own
That's fine.
definition of unhealthy may not be the same, and we do not want to put anyone in a particular bracket. But the reality is, if it is unhealthy for your partner, it is unhealthy for the relationship. That's the way you got to look at it. It might, my threshold for kinky and so forth might not be yours, or it might not be my partner's threshold. And if it is not, we got to be considerate. There are so much ways in how we could actually have fun together, especially related to sex.
Somehow I feel you're going to the other topics again, but all right, no problem.
Does not mean you have to have this. If you don't check off this box, that threesome, I'm not gonna get. I just, spoiler for me. Don't necessarily mean I can't have a wonderful sex life and an intimate life with my spouse, because there is so much that a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit for. So that's kind of what we're talking about in terms of guarding your marriage from unhealthy fantasies. All right, the second one.
Understanding yourself, the things you like to do and receive sexually. So this particular topic now is more about us introspection, self-introspection. Many times we don't take the opportunity to learn our bodies, learn ourselves, see what we like. I'm not talking about if it is whether you had sex before or not before marriage. I'm talking about within marriage, where you're not at a position to think about what do I actually like? What would I like to do during sex? And many times, many persons don't do that. They don't sit down and think it through about what I like, what I don't like, what I would like to do, what I would not like to do, and truly do that introspection of yourself. So that's an opportunity for you to sit down, do some thinking, after some experiences, whatever intercourse, sexual intimacy period that you have had. I know, truly analyze what did I like, what did I enjoy, what did I want to do, what would I like to do. I know, truly work that through for yourself. Make notes of it if you have to. At least you can have it for another time to discuss.
Yeah. And you see, the question she asked is to discuss, and we're going to get to that, because a lot of times you might be so focused on what it is that you're trying to achieve in the action. You're trying to please the person, or but you don't even take stock to say, do I actually enjoy this? Am I actually enjoying? Do I mean, I remember sitting and asking Charlotte, what is your favorite position? Do you think about it? And not to say you're going to just do that, but if you can't tell what you enjoy, it's hard for your partner to really have that. And maybe you haven't even processed it. Do you actually enjoy oral, or is it something that you have grown up with that is thinking that, we shouldn't be doing this, or I shouldn't be doing that, and that's the problem, why it's a mental part of it? Do you actually like having sex in a particular location? Is it something that you've thought about? Maybe you've never done it, so you're not necessarily did it, but there are times that you have to take the time. Do I enjoy this? What is it that I like? And if it is that you're now thinking about it during the action, take some time to really say, I like it when it's doing this or doing that. And then that will get to that point. Because if you don't know what you like, it's very difficult for your partner now that is asking you, what is it you like, if you haven't taken the time to think about it. So at least start there. Really figure out what is it that you actually like during sex. And a lot of times it's amazing, so we don't take the time to figure out what we actually like during sex. And this leads right into the next question. Talking about what you like and don't like with your partner. It's amazing how much time that we just assume things. It's like, if you so here's what we say. If I don't know my partner and understand my partner body, it's not going to be fun. So we go in thinking, if I ask my partner, are you liking this? Do you like, because you're killing the vibes, and I don't want you to be talking, I'm just in a mood, but that might not be the case in that sense. Sometimes we just don't. There's a fear. A lot of times, depending on how you came into marriage space of sex, you want to prove to each other that I'm good. We all sometimes come in, so if I'm to ask, there's sometimes a concern that you might say, I don't like that, or I don't like how you kiss, or because I don't want to offend you, or I don't necessarily like how you do oral, right? Because the reality is, we all have come into to match with different experience. So we don't want to not necessarily let on to the other person that you're not as good as my partner that I've had in the past. And as I said, the people that are coming into marriage that haven't had sex before is blessed, because you don't have to come in with any baggage. You don't have to worry about this person was good and you. We can't help ourselves from comparing as long as you've had sex in the past. You're human. You're going to remember the way this person did this or this person did that. But that's unfair to put that on your partner. Now that you're in, you got to figure it out together. And so if you're not going to talk about what you like and what you don't like for fear that it might offend the person, then you're doing more damage, because you continue doing something that probably the person don't like and they don't know how to tell you, or the person's continue to doing something that you don't like and you don't know how to tell them because you're probably offended. And maybe they don't even like it themselves, and they're doing it because they think, well,
this is what I'm supposed
this is what I'm supposed to do. You're not complaining, and so let's just continue. Or I try to listen. Is she responding in a positive way? So she's responding, maybe she's liking it, so I continue. And this could go on even within a relationship where you're thinking, well, of course they talk about that. But it's amazing how sometimes we just don't want to offend each other, so we don't say certain things. You know, there were certain ways that I like to kiss, and maybe Charlotte didn't necessarily like that. She didn't know until I said, I really don't like it that way, you know. Can I show you how I like it? And take that time and to do so. Now she has an appreciation for that. Some persons may say, I'm not comfortable with this. Okay, can we take it slow? Can we see how that is being done? Talking about it is so critical. About you, Sean.
And one of the things I want to add, that it might be difficult to talk about these things during the sexual act, but I think you need to take time when you're both at a good place to have a conversation, discuss it. You know, say, I want to talk about something, and you share that at that point in time. Don't pressure yourself to do it during sex, because the response might not be as positive in the moment. But take that time with each other, because we need to practice healthy communication. Everything's about healthy communication, as you realize. It doesn't matter what area that you're going to deal with in a marriage, you must have healthy communication. So even at that moment, you need to take some time, sit down and talk to your partner. And of course, you might hear someone say, I don't want to talk about it. Say, well, I think it's important for us, because I want this experience to be better for the both of us. So it's not about criticizing each other, it's about talking to each other, because it's important to share, because that's the only way you're going to have a healthy sexual relationship.
All right. So, and a lot of these are connected, and it leads right into the next one. Don't judge the other person, and then listen with intent and understanding. Because we've come into a relationship with different experience, if you don't create an healthy environment for the person to be able to share how they feel about sex, then it's going to be a very defensive action. We're just going to assume, and we're just going to continue to, and we just hope we figure it out, right? The person might not be doing something a particular way. They may like something that you think is probably a bit too much on that side. Don't judge the person. This is your spouse. This is your significant other. This is the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with.
Mm-hmm.
There is not. We're just different. We grew up with different background. We have different tastes in things. So let the person feel comfortable sharing what they have gone through and what they might have experienced. It's, you know, I've spoken to so much of my friends that has been abused at some point in time, and for that they don't necessarily want to do certain things. You know, so if that person can't share with you that, you know, because I've been abused, I don't necessarily feel comfortable doing this, or maybe I've been abused and I like this because of that. If you're going to know, put that person in a position that they can't share that and that they might feel judged for it, then they're not going to share, and you're gonna find yourself in that, you know, block taking place, and it leads to the other part. Listen with intent and understanding as to why is the person saying, I don't like this, or I don't like it when you do it this way. Don't feel offended to it. The mere fact that they're telling you is because they want you to do it in a way that will please them. So it's not an indictment in you. It's not saying that you're not good at this. You're not saying that you can't do this. It's just saying that this is the way I like it. This is the way I would like you to please me. So listen for the positive in it, so that when you're actually going about that, you could actually take the time to try what a person have said, and to really do so, so that the reality is this is yours. This is, and it will lead to probably part of the last part as to why sometimes we have such a block as it relates to this. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, that's an important area mentioned in terms of, the intent and understanding as we highlighted this evening. That many times we are quick to judge. We think we're better than others, even while we're married to them, You make them feel less important, less valuable because of what they may have experienced or their preferences. But if you truly want to improve your sexual relationship, you will try to listen with intent and understanding, because the hope is to increase the intimacy level where you're both so connected to each other that you could both understand each other and enjoy the moment. If that is not the intention, the problem might be with you, not with your partner.
Yeah. And our last point, at least on this topic, it's enough that we could probably have a part two or anything like that. But we wanted to just kind of touch I would say some of the key things that really we found was very useful for us, that really helped us along the way. And the last one is having a healthy mentality as it relates to intimacy. God created and blessed sex. It's in a marital relationship. And there are times there's some taboo things about sex. And as I said, this depends on your background and where you might have really fallen this line. Where for some persons, let's say, that literally think oral sex is offensive and they can't necessarily do so. Or, sex and God and religion sometimes don't fit together. Like, it's not, God, if I only think that God is probably watching right now, I can't have sex. It's the total opposite. God created sex. It's one of the first gifts that man got. I mean, if you read the Songs of Solomon and the way that Solomon is talking about the dove and a woman's breast and the curves, and so first thing first, so sex is a gift from God. And if that's the case, it is meant to be treated as a gift, something for us to enjoy, and something for not just for us to procreate, but it's a gift. Otherwise, God would not have given us the emotions and the sensitivity and the feelings that comes with having sex. So the mere fact that you could understand and recognize that it's a blessing, it's a gift, and so on, then it allows us to move past that and start having a healthy conversation about it, and being a bit vulnerable with each other to be able to say that I don't necessarily like this, or I don't necessarily like that, or that we actually want to have sex. It's amazing that sometimes, just in the sense of being healthy enough to have that conversation, be able to want each other, or being able to say, no, I'm not necessarily in the mood in a positive way. Sometimes we would think that if I not necessarily in the mood to have sex, means something is wrong. But we have to be able to get to that point that we could be intimate with each other without necessarily thinking that we have to have sex, or it means something is wrong. But I may just want to hold each at this point in time. What about you, Sean?
I thought it went through my head and then it just went up.
I'm so sorry.
No, it was not you. Yes, as I was reading, thinking about the question, I know there's some religious groups that believe sex is only for procreation, which is sad. So the only thing that you should have sex to make more children, and you shouldn't have this need to want to enjoy sex, because that is not the purpose of sex. But God created husband and wife. He created man, woman, and he created sex within it. When Adam saw Eve, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I mean to tell you, every time I read that particular part in the Bible, I get excited. I'm thinking, wow, he's so excited about seeing her. Even though some might say, what are you talking about? It literally sounds like romance, just the way he spoke. And then he knew Eve and they became one. God blessed that union. So if God highlighted that and he encouraged that, obviously means there's some important. Because if you notice that when you have sexual intimacy with your partner, there's a bond that takes place that not even you understand you're so tied to this person, which I guess is why they encourage don't have too many sexual partners. We think it's easy, but in terms of that connection that takes place, difficult to separate yourself from person, because sex is more than just sex, as you realize. It involves intimacy, it involves a bonding process with each other. And when God created, I know He created so we can have this loving relationship with each other, this intimacy, this connection that draws each other so closely together. And I want us to remember this. And as much as some persons might say, why encourage within the marriage? Because marriage was designed for long term. So at least when you have this one person, you don't have to worry about all the after effects of it. Because I've heard too many horror stories, females and male, where they had multiple sexual partners thinking they could handle it, and then now there's the repercussion of the baggage and the stress and the frustration of all these different people, and feeling there's a sense of depression and wantonness. And when I've heard all this, they said, Charlie, don't get yourself involved in that, because it's not, it doesn't have a good feeling after it happens, because it makes them realize it has affected their value system, because it's a mental thing. So appreciate the healthy mentality that sex involves intimacy, that there's importance with it, focus on that bond with the person, focus on understand that God created sex. So sex is not bad. He created sex. It means that He knew why, and He knew He wanted us to have pleasure within all this pain we're experiencing. So have fun with your spouse. Talk about it. Have sex inside, have sex outside, have sex on a roof, have sex in a car, have
Loving
sex
it.
all over.
Loving it.
Just have sex.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Preach,
yeah.
preach,
Yeah,
sister. One of the other things I wanted to share while Charlene was talking is that God meets you where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Even for the person that have had multiple sexual partners, it's amazing how within the marriage, and even with that person, if you really allow God to continue to work, and God could put those thoughts out your head to the point which you don't even remember them, and you see your wife, you see your spouse, you see your husband as the sexiest person you've ever had an intimate relationship with. And that's what I love about how God could actually bring you from where you were, where you've come in with all these warped ideas, and it could refine that you're actually able to see the attractiveness in your spouse, and everything else is the best version that you've ever had. And to me, that's what God could create in your relationship. If it is that you give it yourself a chance, if you look at sex as simply something, as just an act that I just do to please either me or so forth, then you might miss that. But to see that again, and that's why we put this last, start with that this is a gift from God. This is for me to please each other. It's not about going long or going short. This is about us. We've come in with our own baggage. We need to really be vulnerable and talk about it. If it is that you like something this way, say it. Tell your significant other, this is what I like. This is how I like it. Most of the time, I think men don't have a problem with this. We can't tell you what we like. We want to know what we want. We're going to tell you what position we want, change it and put it. I find that's woman. I think it took Charlene a while to start saying, I don't think she thought about it or think that she should, but I think women more need to be more assertive to say what they like. And men like to please for the most part, as long as we know we're going to get down to it. If that's what is going to need to really get you in fun, then we're going to do it. As long as we know that's what you want and we don't feel judged. If it is that we're feeling like we're being judged, that we're not doing this, or you're not doing it well, like I could see there's a frustration, then our egos are easily broken, and we will respond in different ways and so forth. So I think as long as you could be our cheerleader that is cheering us on and encouraging us, and while telling us, we really get this. So as I said, this is a huge topic. We really want to just touch on the point that really made sense for us. If you learned anything, if you gain anything new, if there's nothing you just enjoyed us talking about sex, that's fine. You could just
yeah, he loves talking about sex, so it was a good topic for him. As you realize, he led up this evening. So yeah.
All right. So again, we apologize for the audio issue at the beginning. If you didn't get that, you probably need to start at minute 8 or something like that. It's like where we're going to start. Please remember, if you haven't already liked our page, please remember to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell So when we post more videos like this, you'll be notified. If there's something that you think you could have gained from this, you'd like to talk about, leave a comment in the comment section so that we could respond and share with someone else. Everyone really has something to share. If you have an experience that you think we missed out something, please remember to put that in the comment section as well, so that somebody else that's watching could probably take something from this and to gain from that.
All right, everyone. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. So
All
enjoy
right.
evening. Bye.